Ringleaders of the Rochdale grooming gang cannot be deported after they renounced their citizenship.
Yeah, so two men, Adil Khan and Kari Abdul Rauf, they lost their appeals against deportation in 2018, but yet they still remain in Britain.
Well, Pakistan officials say it would be extremely difficult to take back such dangerous criminals. But the question is, why should the UK then have to deal with these same criminals? Should grooming gang members face automatic deportation?
OK, well, let's speak to immigration barrister Paul Turner to try and explain this all for us. Paul, it seems there's no consistency here. I mean, we've managed to deport some grooming gang members in the past, but now these two, apparently because they've renounced their citizenship, torn up their passports or whatever, can't be deported. I mean, can't we just automatically deport anyone who has some kind of, who is a foreign national?
Yes, it was quite shocking. I dug into it and looked at as to what's happened is, and you're probably not going to want to hear this, but I think they're both British, or they remain British, and that's one of the reasons why they can't be deported. Now, you might be thinking, well, how can they still be British? And the reason for that is that they were dual nationals, and the Secretary of State wanted to take their British citizenship off them, and the courts agreed that given their terrible crimes, they could be taken off them. And these two individuals appear to either be very clever or to have some people advising them who are very clever. And they told them that if you renounce your Pakistani citizenship, sign a form saying that you no longer wish to be a Pakistani, then if the Home Office takes your British citizenship off you, you will be stateless. And the UK law doesn't tend to allow people to be stateless. So they have gamed the system.
But Paul, is this not now the most gargantuan loophole? I mean, it's not even it's not a pinprick. This is a loophole you can drive a carriage and horses right through. Any individual who's migrated to this country, gained citizenship, all they have to do now, surely, is to ditch their previous citizenship, renounce their previous citizenship, and they can't be deported. I mean, what an absolutely outrageous loophole that is.
You're right, and it is a loophole. There could be a saving grace, which is that the Home Office, if they were to deprive them of their citizenship in the belief that they could reacquire their Pakistani nationality, which apparently they can, all they need to do, and this isn't going to make it any easier to hear, all they would need to do is to sign a form, and then they could become Pakistani nationals again. And it will come as no surprise they don't want to sign the form. They're refusing to sign the form. What could save this is if the UK, in conjunction with the Pakistani authorities, said, look, we believe that they are entitled to Pakistani citizenship, and we are going to put them on an aeroplane, and you will allow them into the country because they are entitled to Pakistani citizenship, then they could be deported. The fly in the ointment here is there are no direct flights between the UK and Pakistan, following on from the scandal with the PIA and their unqualified pilots. So this is where someone's identified this loophole, which if there were direct flights, then the Home Office would take the citizenship off them, arrange with the Pakistani High Commission to put them on the plane. They would land in Islamabad, and then it would be Pakistan's problem. But obviously, the UK can't put people that don't have any citizenship onto a plane that is going to transit, say, through Dubai. And that's why the government, I understand, is in discussion with the Pakistanis, who, according to the reports, are saying, well, if we had direct flights, then they could come home. That might be seen as a negotiating position to have flights reinstated. But
we don't trust this airline, do we, Paul? Our authorities don't trust this airline. I just can't believe that you can renounce your citizenship when you're in a dispute with the Home Office about being deported. It just seems like that should just be banned outright. Sorry, you can't make decisions about your citizenship when you're in the process of being deported by the Home Office. I mean, could they do that?
Well, the difficulty there is that the Pakistani citizenship is subject to the laws of Pakistan. So it would have to be that the Pakistani authorities, the Pakistani government would have to say that if an individual was embroiled in litigation in another country, then they weren't able to renounce their Pakistani citizenship, which I can understand, but I don't think I don't think it's practical. I think that the issue here is that they're either very clever, or some people who are very clever have told them that they're going to lose the case in the UK courts.
Yeah.
And
the only way of stopping their removal is to do what they've done.
Yeah, Paul, why do so many of these heinous criminals, these rape gang paedophiles, get such excellent legal advice? It seems that these people... I mean, you look at some people who are prosecuted in this country. I mean, Lucy Connolly comes to mind, who wrote a nasty tweet. Clearly, she did not get very good legal advice. She pleaded guilty and she's in prison for years. On the other hand, some of these people who commit genuine heinous crimes seem to have top-grade legal advice on what to do, and are able to run rings around the system.
200 grand in legal fees, one of these guys.
It's shocking. I mean, you'll recall the case of Shabina Begum. That was a case that ran and ran and ran at huge expense. Yes, it does seem to me that people that are desperate to get involved, either to stop the removal or perhaps do good as get involved, and then it takes a life of its own. But as someone looking at it from outside and as a practitioner, it does seem to me that they've had quite a lot of help in contesting this, what ought to have been their straightforward deportation. In UK domestic law, there is no reasonable chance of them ever winning an appeal that they shouldn't be removed. And most people would know that.
Yeah, it just seems the Home Office just keeps losing when it comes to these types of deportations. There's just so many laws that these lawyers can use to get around it. But yes, one of these guys, £270,000 taxpayer-funded lawyer's bill to fight his deportation to Pakistan. Another guy, £200,000 paid by you and me.
Wow.
I couldn't do that.
Peter, I'm going to start with you. Just the idea here, I suppose. I can understand if everyone thinks about sort of the global citizen. You might think that maybe dangerous people are better off in a British prison than they are in a Pakistani prison. But shouldn't the government of Britain sort of prioritise the citizens of Britain?
Well, first let me say what these men did was absolutely monstrous. They deserve very, very severe punishment. And I would favour the focus being on, first of all, prevention, secondly, deterrence, and thirdly, punishment. But in this particular case, I think it is astonishing, unbelievable, and so wrong that these men cannot be deported, given that they have torn up their Pakistan citizenship, and Pakistan is refusing to accept them. Now, there are negotiations going on, and I hope that will lead to their deportation. But at the end of the day, we have a right to decide who lives in this country. I don't think the renunciation of citizenship or deportation should be used lightly. You know, if people commit a crime, they should be punished. I think only in exceptional circumstances should they be deported.
And so you think grooming gangs, you should be deported. If you're a member of a grooming gang, you've been found guilty, you should be deported, whatever.
Well, I think it would depend on the particular circumstances of the grooming gang and the evidence and the severity of what they did. So, you can be perhaps a member of a grooming gang, and that's absolutely wrong in all circumstances. But if you were just a bystander or a watcher, or you didn't actually commit any sexual crimes yourself, then that probably isn't the grounds for automatic deportation.
Well, let's bring in Jon Taylor, a former Met Investigator and online grooming expert. Surely not just grooming gang perpetrators, but any foreign criminal should be deported, Jon.
Yes, good afternoon. Yes, exactly. And the legal system is there. If you think about it, we've got the powers that we can do. We know that anybody who commits a criminal offence, especially if they are convicted and receive 12 months custodial sentence or more, they can automatically be deported, even under 12 months, depending on certain circumstances. So the power is there. And as Peter quite rightly said, these people who commit these offences, wherever they come from, and what people must understand is even if they're here on a student visa or work visa, or they've arrived illegally, and even if they are seeking political asylum, or even if they've got political asylum, that can be revoked. So actually, we have the power in place. The actual problem then comes, and I put this to Keir Starmer before the election last year at a meeting. I said, you've got to physically deport them. You've literally got to do that. And we have these agencies, the police and border control. Now that becomes very difficult. So even when you've got the diplomatic issue of Pakistan saying, we're not going to take them, you then look at, well, legally, they've renounced their actual citizenship of Pakistan, but actually they've put that in, they've just said that so they can stay in the UK. We can still then deport them, but physically, what are we going to do? Tie them up and put them onto a plane and then arrive in Pakistan and say they're yours?
Yeah.
It's such a difficult situation, but legally, of course we can do this, and we should do this.
Peter, I want to get your thoughts on what has been the hold-up in a lot of these deportation cases, particularly when it's violent sexual criminals, paedophiles as well. Often their defence in this country is that they would be treated very, very harshly indeed in their country of origin. Paedophiles, for example, being deported to countries that have less strong human rights than we have in this country, could be victims of torture, for example, could be victims of mob violence. Should that be a reason to halt someone's deportation?
Not normally, no. Only in very specific, exceptional circumstances. If you commit a very grave, serious crime, you have to pay the consequences. And, it is true that if one of these grooming gang people were sent back to Pakistan, they would face a great deal of social opprobrium. That's true. But it's up to them to hide their identity and move to a place where no one knows them. And on top of that, these people, they would not be prosecuted by the Pakistan government unless they committed a subsequent crime. So providing they cease their grooming gang behaviour and cease their sexual exploitation of children, they would not be at risk of any further prosecution. So that argument does not hold.
Yeah, John, it's just crazy, some of the detail of what goes on with this. Abdulaziz, for example, key figure in the Rochdale grooming gang, locked up in 2012. He ferried victims to sex parties, Leeds, Bradford, across the country. He was convicted of trafficking, conspiracy to engage in sexual activity, jailed for 9 years. He then went on to claim £200,000 in legal fees, fighting repeated attempts to deport him to Pakistan. He managed to dodge deportation. He managed to renounce his Pakistani citizenship somehow. And now this has provided a loophole for further grooming gang members and ringleaders or whatever to do the same thing. It's just crazy. Our legal system, who is it there to serve?
Exactly, Emily. And Peter put the 3 points about prevention, deterrent and punishment. Now, it wouldn't surprise you that I consider prison should be about punishment first, because we know that rehabilitation doesn't really occur as well as it should do. Recidivism is very high, but you're quite right. In these horrendous offences, if there is no real punishment, if there is no prevention or deterrent for this, then it will continue. And we're talking about the worst, in my opinion, having worked in it for 20 years, one of the worst areas of crime. The fact you've got exploitation of young girls and boys as well. So you're right. We have a legal system that has been put in place that could act as should act as a deterrent, should be able to punish, and in some ways should prevent. But it doesn't, because we don't actually put remember that expression, the full letter of the law. It doesn't actually ever get applied here. And then, of course, you've got these convicted offenders, these convicted sex offenders, who then can turn around to Article 8, Article 3 of the European Convention of Human Rights and stick by that. And it ends up embroiled in this massive, great discussion, a diplomatic discussion, before you physically put them on a plane. It doesn't make sense. We know they should be deported basically immediately on conviction, but that doesn't happen.
I know, and I know it's everyone's right to a legal defence and to legal fees and whatever else, but it makes me sick. £200,000 to support this guy's challenge to be deported. Anyway, Peter Tatchell, Jon Taylor, thank you very much for that discussion. It's just crazy, isn't it? It's just crazy. They must be laughing, just laughing at us. Such a soft touch. Such a soft touch.
And then the argument is, OK, how do we deport these people? What will make Pakistan accept these people?
Grovelling to Pakistan.
We're going to have to accept their airline where a huge number
Dodgy
of
airline.
pilots aren't properly qualified, and that's going to have to fly. I mean, what would America do? America would threaten them with tariffs, certainly suspend foreign aid.
Well, we can't do that.
And
what would Lord Hermer say?
I mean, you'd think there would be tougher ways to respond. Anyway, the Home Office has issued
Play
a statement.
hardball, come on, guys. Throw your weight around.
The Home Office has said, we will do everything in our power to deport foreign nationals who commit heinous crimes in the UK.
Yes, OK. Well,